What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. Now, I just can't get enough EV2 here lately, as it's turning out to be quite the badass as our newest hero to join the fight in Dungeon Defenders 2. And yesterday I just discussed the power of the EV2 in a DPS build, and today I want to talk about the Proton Beam, as let me tell you, this is an unbelievable amount of CC. It's a massive amount of damage, and just all around good fun. Anyway, the Proton Beam, not much of an overview description here. Of course, there's going to be more details on the way. We all remember the Proton from the original Dungeon Defenders, and the Proton Beam is turning out to be just remarkably awesome. Now, first off, it's going to add a little bit of a slow value just naturally by itself. Now, one of the cool things about the Proton Beam is there's only two passives that you really have to think about at all, and that is on your weapon and on your relic. You see there the Frosty Proton Node, 3% chance for the Proton Node to freeze all enemies it touches for 3 seconds. You can also get that on a relic, as you see there, Frosty Proton Node. Now, when you see that 3%, you first think, oh wow, that's not a very good chance. However, one thing to remember is, just with your points put into attack speed, the Proton Beam's rate is going to be 0.3 seconds, so it's going to rip off 3 times every single second. And that makes that 3% chance of proccing actually happen very, very often. Now let's talk a little bit about the Proton Beam's damage. As you see here, the attack damage, 1508, unupgraded with my gear, is less to be not very impressive. However, if you look down further below where you get your crit damage, you see, wow, 31,580 on something that fires 3 times a second? Holy shit, that could end up being a ton of damage. 3 crits in a row and you're over 90,000 damage per second just from the Proton Beam. Now, we're going to jump in and look at its uses here in just a moment. However, I wanted to talk about how to maximize that crit damage. Now, first off, you see my crit chance is 27.92, which, you know, the cap is 30%, so I'm getting there. However, it's completely unnecessary, and here's why. Your skill spheres you're going to use, the most important one here would be the Pressure Lux sphere. The 30% chance when defense is damaged to increase defense crit chance by 30% for 5 seconds. This procs constantly. You got something that's firing 3 times a second, the procs go off like mad. Another real important one to add, the Panic Fire Sphere. 15% chance when defense is damaged to increase defense speed by 100% for 5 seconds. This cuts your defense speed in half. It makes it so it fires every 0.15 seconds. Oh man. Now we're up to firing 6 times a second with change. So awesome. The other skill spheres that you bring do not matter. I personally use Shattering Torpedo and the Reflect Node upgrade, as I do use Reflect Beams fairly often, as I think they're awesome. However, with that 30% increased crit chance, well, the cap is 30%. So with 0 chance to crit, when this procs, you are all the way up to the maximum crit chance that you can currently have in the game. I'll show that off here in a bit as well. Now let's take a look at the stats. As I mentioned, the most important thing is the crit damage, as crit stacking is huge. Now, first things first, on any builder hero, the number one thing you do is you max out your attack speed. We don't have any ways to get it really in the game right now, with a few exceptions on passives, so every single builder you have, that should be the first thing you max. Now, next important would be the defense crit damage, as the scaling is ridiculously nice with the protons. So let's go ahead and max that out as well. Now I'm going to have 80 points left. Most people's instinct would be to come down here in defense range. However, from what I can see, defense range does 0 for your beams. So don't worry about defense range and just go ahead and throw that extra 80 right into defense power. Now, once again, defense power is more, or defense crit is more important than defense power. So, when you're re-rolling your gear, now first off, every piece of gear you're going to want defense power and defense crit on it, as that's the stuff. So every piece you want that. Now, as you upgrade it, you're going to want to increase your defense crit damage, where your natural instinct is going to be to increase your defense power. As you see here, I've 313 defense power, 343 defense crit, so I've put all my points into crit damage. Now I did that all the way across the board, and that's what gets me up to that 31,580 crit damage. That's actually low compared to some of the screenshots I've seen on the forums. Anyway, let's hop right on into a match and see this stuff in action. We're going to go into Endgame Incursion, Nightmare 4, and we're just going to check it out on Gates of Dragonfall. Extremely, extremely powerful. Now, in this particular instance where you've got three pretty clear lanes, one of the most important things you can do is just stun lock a lane. So, in addition to the Proton Beam, we're going to bring along Mr. Apprentice for a little frosty action on top of the mix. So first things first, let's lay down. I'm going to put 4 frosties here, I think. I'll put a couple of them splitting these 2 lanes, and then a couple of them splitting these 2 lanes, and I think that'll give pretty darn good frosty coverage. Now, we do have flyers on this map, and although I'm not going to go through the whole map, I don't want to have an issue with flyers. So, you know what, let me just throw down some anti-air, even though anti-air is proven to not be super effective. Let's just go ahead and throw some of those down, as, you know, it will help. I'll have to burn down any flyers that pop into the match. Now, let's just get straight on to the Proton Lovin'. So, right now, for ground mobs, the only thing that we have doing damage to them is nothing, currently. The Frosties, of course, don't do any damage. The air defense are only going to hit the air. In fact, let me throw down one more air defense here, just to be safe. And hop back over. So let's get to throwing down some Proton Beam love. Alright, so I've got 480 DU left. That actually gives me quite a bit where I can set down some Proton Beams. Now, one important thing to note, although setting a Proton Beam like that is going to give you maximum coverage on that lane as far as the width, any stragglers that come outside are still going to get hit by the beam. The problem with setting it like that, it only gives you a really small amount of time in the beam itself. And of course, we want to maximize that, so we're going to set our beams up this way. So I've got plenty of DU left, so I'm really going to spread the beam lovin'. Let's check our frosty range again. Looking good there. And let's just go ahead and lay down the goodness. I'm going to try to keep these as close together as possible. And then as well, making sure I'm going, you know, in the direction of flow in the lane as much as possible to maximize the amount of time that these baddies are going to be up in the Proton goodness. See, that's a pretty good start. It looks like some stuff might come around wide there. I can come back and fix that here in a minute with some additional additives, because I'm going to have a little DU left over here. But same thing here. Let's just go ahead and cover this lane as best as we can. And then once again on this side, check the frosty range. Always want to make sure you're staying in the frosty range, that way you get the benefit, of course, of the Frosty Power Apprentice. Let's see, I think just like that would do me good. I got what, 150 DU left, so I actually got quite a bit to play with yet. I could stack more protons in the mix. You know what, why not? Now, of course, you can crisscross these guys, you can do whatever you want. What I'm going to do is keep them going right in the same direction of flow. I'm just going to move them up just a little bit, so they're going to cross over each other just a touch, and we'll get... Actually, let me go a little bit wider here to make sure we get maximum lane coverage here as... There we go. That does pretty decent, and then I've got 50 more for each lane here. Let's see, let's just start off right here. Locked. Let's go just like that. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Just giving a little bit extra love there with more frosties. Now, obviously, you can be very creative with how you lay these down. The sky's the limit. You just want to make sure you're maximizing the amount of time that the baddies are going to be all up in your frosties. Or, pardon me, all up in your protons. Your frosty protons. Alright, now, let me go ahead and switch to my DPS here, just to avoid any nastiness that could come about, and let's see what these guys do. Now, remember, unbuffed, they're attacking at 0.3 time, or 0.3 seconds, so it's 3 times a second, and currently I'm at 27, just call it 28% crit. Now, the max, of course, is 30, so it's not going to take much to get me to 30, but we'll be able to see those skill spheres proccing like crazy on both the crit chance and the attack rate here as soon as we get some baddies up in here. And here they come. Now you see my crit chance just went to 30, and then there's the crit rate dropping to 0.15 seconds. This is when the stuff really starts to rip off. Now, of course, you have multiple frosties in the business. You're going to get even more buffage going on. Plus, with the addition of the Proton Beam frosty nodes, that just makes the CC completely ridiculous. I had a couple of anti-airs disappear there for some reason. No clue why they blew up. Now look at that go. I haven't seen damage rip off quite that fast since DD1, so I'm pretty stoked to see some quicker attack rate defenses coming into the mix. And the Proton Beam definitely does the trick. As you see, it will basically just stop that lane and slowly burn down everything that pops in. Not even slowly in some cases. You see the crits ripping off in red in the 30s. They are almost continual. So it is a powerful, powerful defense indeed. And another reason, really, to jump on the EV2. Get your EV2 leveled up. You're going to absolutely love it. When you add in reflect beams, buff beams, and the other bits of goodness, it makes it a no-brainer. Awesome DPS, awesome builder. And that's going to do it for this episode, but I just really wanted to highlight the Proton Beam a little bit and show it a little love, as it is just amazing. Thanks again. See you guys soon.